Rock and roll. Here's Tony Gwynn. This is cool. This is we're going to look at a front view and we're going to look at a rear view. So again, I learned things here with Tony that I didn't know. Number one, let's check his timing. Nobody in Major League Baseball, well, it's probably a very small percentage, maybe one or two guys stride this late. When does he start moving? He really doesn't lift his front foot until, boom, the ball is way back here. I mean, his heel's barely off the ground. The pitcher has his arm back and it's just starting to come forward. Most people do this with their front foot nowadays when the pitcher breaks his hands right here. Okay, so that's pretty amazing actually how late he is because he's hitching his hands down when the ball's released. Okay, see that little hitch? Kind of Barry Bonds look actually. His hands go down. I will also tell you that guys throw, probably on average 8 to 10 miles an hour harder nowadays than they did then. Maybe that's why he could get away with it. Okay, just trying to find it. But one of the things we look at is how hunched over he is. Okay, so and we don't see that anymore, do we? We don't see a big hunch. We see guys that are straight up and then get into this spine posture later on. Let's see if I can put a number on that. I don't know if I can, but we're going to try just for fun. So I'm going to go from his spine here. So whatever, 41 degrees from horizontal. Okay, that's where he starts. 40 degrees will make it even easier. Then as he swings, okay, so he starts at 40, sorry. He starts at 40, then we're going to take him to heel plant. Okay, he's still at 40 at heel plant. Look how much he's stepped into the plate too. Okay, so I mean that just tells you where he's going with the ball, right? He wants to go middle away, or he wants to go opposite field. Okay, so he's still at 40. Now, as he comes through the swing, check this out. Because he's hunched so much, and this pitch is a little bit higher, okay, but I'm just going to draw a regular basic line here. Because he's hunched so much, watch how much his head and posture moves. Okay, I mean, this pitch is not high, right? It's right at the thighs. But now, look at his posture. Look at how much his head moved. That first line was the top of his head. What do you think the ball's doing when your head goes up? Right? When your head goes up, the ball goes down, you hit the top of it. Just the opposite of somebody that drops their head. So not only does his head go up, I mean, this would absolutely destroy coaches today. You have to keep your spine angle, right? We got to be. This isn't stance. This is launch to contact. We have this much spine angle. Okay, so now, what was it, 40 degrees, I think I said? Now it's 58, a difference of 19 degrees. And what part of the ball does he hit? It's the top of the ball. Okay, why? Because he doesn't have a barrel drop, right? He's got great mechanics. And then he lifts, and then he's going to hit kind of a hard ground ball or a low line drive to right field. Okay, but that's the biggest thing I see from the front with him. I will also say that his vertical bat angle is excellent. Okay, vertical bat angles in the 20s, perfect, like absolutely perfect. You'd be surprised how many kids and players, and by kids I mean people under my age. Okay, so even like major 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds, 15-year-olds, whatever you want to say, have a hard time getting, especially left-handed hitters, have a hard time with that number, for sure. Okay, so now he's going to continue, and he talks about finishing high. Remember that in his speech? Make sure you finish high. Not really. Okay, it was double down the right field line. On the turf, baby. Okay, so I think, is this the same view? Yeah, they're playing in Toronto. That's not Toronto. So this is a different swing. I thought it was the same swing. I was hoping it was the same swing. This is a different swing. Okay, this is a beautiful swing, by the way. Okay, so here's Gwynn again. We can see his very basic load. What did Gwynn talk about? Be balanced in the stride, right? Be balanced, be balanced, be balanced. Knob first, palm up, palm down. So I'm going to draw him. This is launch right here. I'm going to draw the middle of his head. Okay, notice how it's maybe slightly behind his belt, slightly behind center. Most guys today are over their hip flexor. Okay, most guys are back a little bit more. He's definitely back. And then from here, as he launches, let's do the same thing we do with all our other players. Here's the top of his head. No, here's the front of his cap. Okay, so I usually give players about an inch here. They can bleed forward an inch, maybe an inch and a half. And then here's the top of his head. Okay, draw that little 90-degree box in there. I mean, you can tell. Here's the dugout, right? Let's see what his head does. comes up and out. When that happens, what do we do? We lose our posture. Okay, but his posture's like 2 over when he's striding. I mean, geez, what would have happened if I could have got a hold of Tony Gwynn nowadays? He may have hit 500 with 40 jacks a year. I'll be honest, like just throwing that out. No, I'm just kidding. This guy, he's so talented. But that's a big difference. That's a big head movement as I go through there. Okay, his head goes what? Up and forward. What do most guys today, what does their head do? It goes down and back. Okay, like it's very different. All right, now from here, his hands are in a perfect position, right? His top hand is equal to like the middle of his ear. His front shoulder is in. Not a lot of hip separation, right? Like his chest is back here, so not a ton of torque, but he's got torque, right? His hips are definitely more open. And then as we go here, the next frame, you can see his hips, his shoulders kind of catch up to his hips right there. So now all of a sudden his shoulders are there and his hips are just slightly in front. So he probably was a 15-degree torque guy. So not a ton of power in that move, right? But not a lot of risk either. Okay? Like we have to sacrifice somewhere. But look at his hands, right? I mean, you get to this position. I know it's blurry, but here's the knob. Here's the short approach position. Here's the elbow. Where's the bat? Right over the shoulder. Okay, where's his lead arm? His lead elbow's out in front of his body. I mean, this is just a perfect short approach position. Okay, I don't care. The greatest players in the game are going to get to here. And then the next frame is almost his approach. It's kind of blurry. Look at the knob's equal to his front elbow. The barrel is pretty level. I'm going right in the middle of the blur there. It's maybe slightly above his hands or equal to his hands. So what does that mean? He's not dumping his barrel. He's not going to hit a lot of weak fly balls to the opposite field. And then he releases his bat to contact. Okay. He's probably palm up, palm down. I can't see because it's 1992 or whenever this was taken. No, this was probably mid-90s. But you can see the blur of his bat. It's definitely going up through the ball. In fact, that's the plane. Is that the plane of the pitch? Do I get? Oh yeah, look at the plane of the pitch. So I'm gonna get wild here if I can figure it out. Oh boy, this is gonna be really tough. I'm gonna change colors. Okay, so yellow is gonna be the plane of the pitch. Here's the plane of the pitch. Okay. Notice his barrel comes down to that line and then stays through it. And then he hits it. I mean, talk about staying on plane. He hits it on, there's the blur here. It's like parallel but like 1 inch higher. Okay, that was his exit. So, I mean, that's a guy that's on plane. Okay, when does his barrel hit the yellow line? He's definitely swinging down back here. If I do like a little, do I have a freehand tool here? Yeah. So if, his barrel's definitely kind of coming that way, down, and then he probably doesn't level out till about here, and then it kind of comes up. So, I mean, that's a perfect swing plane. And is he back at contact? Yeah, his spine's back, right? Not a lot. But here's, kind of his back. If I draw a line, whoops, wrong line. If I draw a line kind of parallel to his spine here, parallel to his back, it's back a couple degrees. His back foot is super high. His back knee looks great. His front leg is straight. He's just more upright than most because he came up and out of that crouch. What did, his hero, like he saw himself in Rod Carew. Like that's who made sense to him. You heard it in a couple interviews that he did. That's what Rod Carew did. He had a big crouch, and Tony probably copied it when he was a kid, and then he came out of that crouch. So again, coming back here, crouch, and then up and out of it as he went to swing. Now, what would happen if he just started there? If he started upright, would that allow him to get to the bottom half of the ball a little bit easier? Nobody will know. Okay, so very, very important to really make sure your stance and at least your launch position. When you get to launch, you don't want that head to. That was one thing he preached, right? Make sure you don't move your head. Make sure you don't move your head throughout the swing. And every swing that I saw, except for one that was maybe down and away, his head moved up and forward. Okay, so maybe that's why he liked the pitch outside and down so much, was because he could hunch over, with his upper body a lot more. Because if you think about, if I go back to the front view here, when you keep your spine, that tilted in, typically your vertical bat angle is perpendicular to your spine. So that means his vertical bat angle would be like that. Well, that would be impossible. He would slice everything. So I'm thinking even on outside pitches, he had to come up, right? So if I draw those two lines again, right at contact. Now we look at his spine there, and then here's his bat right about here. See how close to perpendicular those are? But before, if we went to at launch, if we were to set that up, if he didn't make an adjustment, right? Switching colors again because I can. So here's his initial perpendicular, there's spine, and then I go perpendicular to that. You can see that's where his bat would have been, and that he wouldn't have been successful with that. So, a posture change, I bet would have made a really big difference for him. And one other thing we can learn from Tony Gwynn on a lifelong, which they should have made more of an example out of this. Tobacco is really bad for you. Tobacco kills. So those of you kids that are out there think dip's cool and having a chew is really cool, it's not cool, man. It'll ruin your life. Public service announcement over.